you can take off the face mask once you do it properly, and you continue to practice the other measures. Okay, so if you're uncomfortable wearing the face mask for the entire duration of the session, by all means, take it off by using the loops around the ears. Don't touch the body of the mask, the front of the mask, when taking it off. Around your chin or on your forehead or anything. If it's on, it's on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Prime Minister. Members of the media, we've just completed a 3.5-hour meeting of the Social Partnership. Prime Minister Mottley will outline first the outcome of that meeting, and then she will entertain questions from the media.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, ladies and gentlemen in Barbados, fellow Barbadians, it is indeed a pleasure for me to be speaking to you. I was getting too accustomed to speaking to you from my house. I am now happy back into the full swing of things, and today is my second day back at work, but it would be remiss of me if I did not thank all those who held the course for the nation for me. Starting with the Acting Prime Minister, Santee Bradshaw, the Attorney General, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Health, the ministers who were on the core subcommittee dealing with this, Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, the Minister of Public Affairs and Information, and of course, my tall friend, the Minister of Labor. That subcommittee managed the whole situation of both the shutting down and the reopening of individual sectors of the country over the course of the last 7 weeks. It's almost difficult to believe that that time has gone already. Nevertheless, it has. On the last occasion on which I spoke to the country, we agreed on the opening and we indicated that we were at phase 2 and that given the trajectory, we were in a position then to undertake the opening of certain businesses in phase 2 and that we would review again based on the trajectory for phase 3. I'm happy to report that the Social Partnership would have had an update from the Chief Medical Officer, from Dr. Ford, from the Tsar, Mr. Richard Carter. It equally took an update on the economy and the country's finances from Dr. Greenidge and other members of the team and Minister Strawn. And we were able, in addition, to discuss a number of matters of fundamental import to the country. On the last occasion on which I spoke, we indicated that there were a number of matters that we would want to deal with, and on this occasion, perhaps the most important thing that we have done is to begin to set out the framework for what really is the mission ahead in the country for safe operations to continue across the board. The truth is that when we met on the 28th of May, 2018, one of the things we did was to set a common mission. On that occasion, the common mission was the saving of the value of the Barbados dollar. It is our judgment that it was in the setting of that common mission and the commitment by labor, by the private sector, and by government, and then generally the people of Barbados, to attaining that common mission, that we have been successful in that part of the mission. The truth also is that we face this crisis in a far better situation than many countries, largely as a result of our determination to restructure our debt when we did, which has created the fiscal space for us. On this occasion, we have taken a similar approach. What effectively is it that we want to do during the course of this pandemic? And how do we balance lives and livelihoods? And how do we build on what really has been from public health, a determination that the continued downward trajectory is pretty much still taking place, and therefore we are in a position to better balance lives with livelihoods. And I use this to be able to show how easy it is for things to topple over if there is not balance. This afternoon, we therefore settled on three broad missions. How do we keep safe work for safe people in a safe country? How do we have safe work for safe people while trying to keep Barbados safe? Two, a subset of that, how do we get as many people into work again in Barbados as possible? And three, while we do that, how do we ensure that every household in Barbados can eat food every day? And those are the three things that at a broad level will occupy us, because if we can create the jobs, then we can minimize the contraction in the economy, and we can ultimately see that we would put ourselves back on a growth trajectory. If we can have a safe country, then people will want to be associated with this country and will want to come here ultimately when we open back up. If we can have safe work for safe people, then it means that those people who can in fact do the work because their immune system is strong, they are the least vulnerable to COVID, but they need to be able to work in order to support their families, and by extension, in particular, those in their families who, because of an uncontrollable comorbidity, a lot of fancy words for bad diabetes, out of control hypertension, out of control cancer, asthmatic, that some of those people may not, in the immediacy of the pandemic, and particularly given the jobs that they have, may not be able to carry the work. You've heard me say over and over that we may well have a situation where 2/3 of the population who can work will have to carry it for the other third. Now, I hope, however, that in our drilling down, we are in a position to put as many people back to work week by week by week without compromising the gains that the country has made with respect to where we are with COVID-19. The reality is that Barbados has tested a higher percentage of our population than a lot of countries in the world. I believe that we are close to just under 1 point, 0.17% of the population when last I checked yesterday or day before. And that is a significant achievement and by no means is something to be underestimated or to be ignored. The Chief Medical Officer can also tell us that additional 45,000 kits came into the country, and we have also sufficient swabs. We have more than 5,000 extractor kits to start, extraction kits to start, but we need to get more of those because I've learned, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I've learned that you need all of these things in order to effectively test the populations. And it meant, therefore, that we were able to significantly ramp up testing from about 2 to 3 weeks ago from where we were originally because of a lack of access to testing kits. Not just in Barbados, I must tell you, but globally, and a lack of access to swabs as well as extractor kits, etc. It is against that background that we therefore recognize the need to balance lives and livelihoods.